There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Film Geek Primer Reviews. It's Friday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm your host, John Santo. With me is Tremendo. T, how you doing?
How do you do, Flight Rangers or Flight Legionnaires or whatever the hell they were called? This is a movie we're going to discuss in a few minutes.
All right, go for it. Rear back and stake a claim on that flick. With us also Warren, Mr. Graff. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I have to admit, I like the fact that on Tuesday nights you lounge, yet on Friday nights you take a sitting position. It's like it's a different character.
It's hard to lounge for an hour and look at a little laptop. It's not easy. I have to go. I go to a chiropractor. I go get physical therapy. The things I do for this show.
And on Friday night, I know. Well, I'm glad that you commit to your art, though. I do appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Not with us tonight, of course, is Shu, who is out doing something. I forget what. And Dub is preparing for his. How old is his kid turning? How old's Ike turning this year?
Oh God.
10?
No, I'm gonna say 8.
Okay. Really?
Maybe 9.
Okay. 9. I bet you it's 9.
9. I have to try and figure out how old my kids are.
Yeah, I bet you it is. I bet you it is 9 because he was born the same year I moved down here. That's it. That August. Like I moved down in April. He was born in September. What is it? September? No.
We're August.
Yeah, whenever it is. He's not my kid. I don't need to worry about his birthday.
Not my kid.
That's right. It's been 9 years. Holy shit.
Yeah, but so I have though Shu, who can't be with us, sent his review, and I will get to that when the time comes. But tonight we're going to be reviewing Sky Captain: The World and Tomorrow. This was Tremendo's choice, so I'm going to let T lead the conversation here, as the case should be, I think, for those who choose the film. So. Why don't you lead us off, T, and then whenever you want me to tell you what Shu's feelings are, I will chime in with that.
I think I know because I think we saw this movie when it was first released in 2004.
Was this movie 2004?
Yeah, 2004.
Wow. Okay.
September 2004. Yeah, I remember that being a very long night, or at least a very long drive from the multiplex.
Were you two fighting?
I'm curious to see what he said, what he sent you. But I did hear a diatribe. That's all I remember. But then again, in the 20 years I've known Shu, it's been a 20-year diatribe.
Diatribe is his middle name. Yeah, I mean, if anybody can drop knives, it's Shu.
Well informed and very erudite.
Yes.
But diatribe nonetheless.
So I'll tell you.
In the World of Tomorrow.
So I'll tell you what. First off, do me a favor. Tell us, why did you choose this film?
I was just I looked at 3 titles. One was Event Horizon, because we all love the real Paul Anderson, and the other one, and that wasn't available streaming. The other one was, and I'm blanking out on it. Oh shit, I forgot the other one. But Sky Captain was one that just popped up on the Netflix Instant Watch page. So I thought, you know what? It's been 10 years since I'd seen this. I think about a year ago I picked it up for like $2. A used copy at $2, and it's just been sitting in a box. I've been meaning to revisit it. I remember liking it when it first came out. I remember Shu not necessarily agreeing with that. And I thought, maybe a rewatch is in order. So it's Instant Watch. It's kind of a divisive title amongst film geeks, I think, or at least the whatever impact it had. It can be significant or questioned or dissected. So I guess that's what we're going to do tonight.
Sure.
So Sky Captain was released in 2004. It was directed by Kerry Conran, who was a kind of like a CalArts guy. I read the Wikipedia entry on him, and the way this thing was developed was he actually shot a short film with a lot of the test technology that eventually developed into the Sky Captain stuff. It's a fully digital film. I think it's the first blue screen digital film, feature-length film that was released
in its entirety. Yeah. Because before that, I didn't realize it was that late. But because we'd already had by that point we'd had 2 Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
Or all, yeah, 2 of them.
I think all 3 of them.
I think all of them. No, all 3 of them. Yeah.
Okay. So they were definitely so those had major digital work done. But yeah, this was the only one that was like in its entirety, minus certain little set pieces and props and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a couple sets they actually had to build, but most of it's all blue screen, everything. It's all digitally rendered. So the press at the time was really lauding that was the future of filmmaking, and they were putting. I mean, I don't know much about this guy, but I think he was really put on the spot. He had kind of his background was mostly in the movie serials of the 30s and movies like King Kong, and that influences totally.
Oh, wallpaper throughout the movie.
Yeah, all up and down, along with Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Kind of comes from our generation. I think he just was set out to do a fantasy film, and the technology was there, and the network connection that he had. He had a kind of there was a middleman between him and John Avnet, who's a big producer. So that things kind of just, from what I read, things just kind of went really fast. From the test short that he had to the full-length feature, and they were able to snag Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow and what's his name?
Jude Law.
Jude Law as Sky Captain.
Hey, so, he was able to nab Laurence Olivier from the grave. That's how good the script was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and I think we should talk about that. So it's a very much an homage to the 30s serials, and the Fleischer Superman cartoons is a huge influence is in the movie. It's about a guy, Sky Captain. He's this adventurer. He flies a plane around. That's a submarine. It's a plane. He's got
That's it. Those two things. That's all it is.
Submarine and a plane. I was hoping that was the third. There's a New York is invaded by robots, by this crazy guy, and Sky Captain comes to the rescue. Polly Perkins, who's played by Paltrow, is the love interest. It doesn't really becomes a love interest. That's what I kind of like, that there was no. It never really developed back until there's. They keep going. The whole joke throughout the film is how they broke up and how they hate each other.
And she's an intrepid reporter.
Reporter, kind of the Lois Lane mold. And then Giovanni Ribisi is also in it. He's the wacky sidekick, and Jolie is this mysterious military leader of that comes to the aid of Sky Captain, and they try to track down the treacherous Laurence Olivier, who's molded in the whole kind of Bioshock. Who's a Bioshock villain? He's this like crazy billionaire who has this vision of utopia.
It's funny that you bring up Bioshock, because the last third of that movie, I kept thinking to myself that Levine must have seen that. Ken Levine must have seen this movie and taken something from it, because there's so much Bioshock in that last act. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the Snowpiercer too. Snowpiercer, I think there's a lot of Bioshock influence in there.
Yeah.
That whole 30s Atlas Shrugged.
It's all very Ayn Rand kind of.
And so that's the film. It's fully digital. It's an hour and 6 minutes, or what is it? 106 minutes. So there you go. Sky Captain: World of Tomorrow.
Okay. Where is there any place specific that you want to start with this, or should we just kind of?
I'll start with you, John. What was the last time you saw it, and what are your thoughts now seeing it again?
I haven't seen it since the theater. I was not impressed with it when I saw it in the theater, and I'm still not impressed with it. There are two things that I kind of liked, which is the first 6 minutes, when it kind of sets up New York and the world, and basically because I felt like it was lifting shots directly from Metropolis, so to me that was kind of exciting. And it's the only time that the camera does anything interesting, or there's a single angle in this movie that's interesting, because the rest of it is just so many close-ups. This film has so many close-ups. But it's this. I didn't care much for the script. I didn't care much for the acting, but I think there's a lot of the things I don't like about it, other than the fact that I think it's too steeped in nostalgia without doing what like Spielberg and Lucas did with Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was to kind of update and make it add a fresh level of to it, and this does none of that. This doesn't really add much of anything to it, other than just say, look how cool the 30s were, and it's not that cool. But also, I think a lot of the acting and I think a lot of things were hampered by the fact that probably a lot of actors weren't used to this form of filmmaking, which is now, we've had 300, we've had Sin City, we've got Rodriguez's entire oeuvre since he opened up his little studio in Texas many moon ago. But it's so it's this digital form of filmmaking was relatively still fresh then, and so I think actors were still getting used to the fact that they had to stare at tennis balls and different markers on walls and try to act to stuff. It's like you can say there's a giant robot in front of you, and there's no reaction from anybody in the movie. Nothing is amazing to anybody in this film. Everything is just kind of there. They don't give a shit. It's just kind of okay, that's what it is. But I like the opening montage of the giant and it was the Hindenburg 2, right? Because
3. Hindenburg 3.
What happened to Hindenburg 2?
Impractical way to get off of a Zeppelin.
Yes. Yeah.
Top
Top of the Empire State Building. Yeah.
That's crazy. I would never do that.
Yeah, agrophobics need to worry about that movie a lot. The other shot that I really liked is they're traveling to Tibet, and you see the plane fly, and it could be in the Raiders of the Lost Ark mold of watching the dot move from location to location. You actually see the plane flying over the globe, except that you see the ley lines and everything else like that. And I thought that was actually kind of a cool transition to get from point A to point B. And those are the only kind of moments. There were some nice little montage-y things through it and stuff like that. But again, all of them very much lifted from movies of that era, and it's very, very much kind of had that whole, I was shocked they did not have a spinning newspaper at any point in time, because that would really kind of capture.
Well, they had a newspaper in the backgrounds that just.
Yeah, well, and did you notice Godzilla, by the way? That was my favorite cameo.
Yeah, I did. I saw that. Yeah, I didn't see that the first time.
Yeah, but yeah, I took notes on. I got very serious and wrote stuff on a napkin. So yeah, the Godzilla reference. I thought, and at first, and again, all of this really kind of deals more with the first 5 to 10 minutes of it, because so much of it, there's very much a feel of the propaganda posters of the Fleischer brothers, who you've already noticed. German Expressionism, a bunch of the action serials of the time, Metropolis, of course, and yeah, the Art Deco style. I think it's Art Deco style. I think that's what I'm labeling it. Whatever that style is, to me, it's Art Deco. That's how I interpret Art Deco. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ideas and a lot of cool design in it, but nothing after the first 5-10 minutes. It becomes pretty standard looking stuff. So it is an interesting. At the end of the day, it is an interesting time capsule. It's contextually, I think it's fascinating and a point in cinema historically, because it really kind of shows the turning point, I guess, to what filmmaking. In a weird way, it is a game changer, because it's like that's exactly what movies have become, and we've had some very huge hits based off of this. I mean, it's like nobody talked about when 300 was this huge hit. Everybody talked about the interesting look of it and blah blah blah. And this film does a lot of those same things with color filters and everything else like that. It's just set in a different time era. But other than that, it's pretty inconsequential. Unfortunately, Kerry Conran, whatever his name is,
Conran
can't make a movie. And that's the biggest flaw, is that where he could have used the camera to help develop relationships. The one moment that I really kind of thought was underplayed was Joe, or Sky Captain, is piloting the plane, and Penny Pretty, what's her name? Polly Plattwood?
Polly Perkins.
Sure. Polly Perkins is in the back, and she leans forward, and she's like, and she's very close to his face, and she's kind of like looking into him. And you're like, okay, so here's the chemistry shot. Here's the bit where you kind of get that thing where she's really attracted to him, but the camera angle is just kind of this odd profile shot, so you really see none of her reaction or what she's thinking or feeling during that moment. All you get is kind of a broad stroke of what's supposed to be going on, and no actual kind of he doesn't use the camera to tell the story of what's going on. I don't know if that is poor filmmaking or his decision to try to kind of keep things looking like looking like the the serials of the time, which of course were shot with zero money and would only have a few setups per per scene. My guess is it probably falls much more under the guy really can't deal with actors, can't deal with characters, or that type of storytelling.
Yeah, I think that I totally agree. I think that he can't, like with most visualist directors like this, new technology type directors, that they have a really hard time dealing with human beings.
Yeah, and of course, and the film, because of the way that the film was put together, it has very little energy. They try to put some energy into the underwater battle sequence that reminded me a bit of the first G.I. Joe movie, which made me laugh. But it's like the camera never moves. Unless it's following something. There's nothing to give the film any kind of momentum or push forward or anything like that. So it fell pretty flat for me.
It should have been his resume movie, but it didn't lead to anything. It did nothing after this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if that was they were touting him as being something big, and when the film kind of fizzled out, nobody was willing to hire him. I know he was attached at one point. They were talking about him making John Carter way back when, but that was like every other director and his cousin was slowly being attached to John Carter and then slipping away. So
Rodriguez was, as well as John Favreau.
Yeah, and that was so basically it was back when Harry Knowles was attached to produce it, and he was trying to get whoever he could to direct it. But enough of me. Anyways, I don't know, Warren. Let's get some of your thoughts in there.
I agree with you pretty much 100% about like that first 10 minutes of the movie. It is very just classic 30s, early 40s style. I'll even say it's got a lot of, I'm just saying the movie, but it's not comparing it, but like a Citizen Kane style, where it's like really unique angles, but it's still of the era.
I agree.
You have those. He's like her publisher has this huge like office that's like unbelievably huge. It's this huge window, like it's like an unnaturally huge office, and like you have the moments where everybody, like there's like 4 people all pointing up to the sky when the robots come, and you got the angles at the theater and like all those kind of things, and that stuff was all beautiful. And then after that, like once they left New York and once they set up that whole kind of storyline and kind of the mystery, like it's gone. Like I mean, you start to lose it during when the robots attack New York, and then from there it maybe comes back in little glimpses here and there, but it's all gone. And then the rest of the movie to me was just basically boring. None of the action really mattered to me. None of it seemed important. A lot of like the dialogue and the acting sort of took me out of it, and it was a lot of exposition. It was just I just didn't find it interesting at all. It was I started playing with my phone and just like not paying attention because like I didn't care. And I hated Pepper Potts or Polly, whatever she's. It's the same name, same girl. But I just I felt like her motivation was like all the stuff that she did was just kind of dumb. It was like she's hiding like the vials from him. I was like, well, what's the point of that? That's being mysterious just to be mysterious, or hiding just to be hiding something.
And not only that, but it made her character seem like a real douche. I mean,
it's like I didn't like her at all. Like, I think I don't hate Gwyneth Paltrow or anything. Like, obviously, I like Pepper Potts and Iron Man and stuff.
Sure.
But it's.
I think all the characters are douches, though. There's no one really likable.
But none of them were likable except for none of them were likable. I mean, none of them. Sky Captain wasn't really likable. I mean, he just wanted to get his friend, which is cool, I guess. But he also knew that these people were going to destroy the world. So it's like, well, I just care about my friend. It's like, well, save the world. And even the villain, or like the bad guy, or whoever you want to call him, it sort of petered out at the end. Like, I mean, I know it was supposed to be this big, like, kind of reveal, but there was just nobody to be up against at that point. At that point, it was just kind of time and whatever sort of had been set in motion. Like, there was nobody that they were fighting against.
Yeah, well, and his plan made no sense either, which was really bizarre, because it was like, so here you have a scientist, spoilers, who's been dead for 20 years and everything's running on automatic pilot. But his deal is that the world is crumbling, so he's going to start his own Eden. He's going to start his new place on another planet. But because he knows that the world is doomed, has doomed itself, but his rocket is going to blow up the world when it launches at the same time. It's like,
that seemed tacked on.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's like it was like
Okay.
we'll just let the giraffes and shit fly off to another planet. Good for it. Then we'll have some place to explore. But they've got to throw in this little thing of well, and I didn't even understand exactly what it was. Like if the booster rocket goes off, it will incinerate the planet.
It's not like even worth trying to think about. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like,
it was weird.
It was just weird, and you know, overall it was like
story.
Yeah, it was a lot of that stuff like pushed the story forward, was really convenient, and like, you know, every action just sort of seemed tacked on.
Yep.
Everything that pushed them forward was just kind of sort of came out of nowhere, seemed to be like, oh, by the way, or you know, it was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, there was nothing organic about it's funny in a film
not,
that has nothing that's organic in it. There's nothing organic about the storytelling either.
But it was more disappointing because that first 10 minutes, I thought, here's somebody who really enjoyed those old movies, and he got it, he knows it, and then something happened after those first 10 minutes where he lost it. He after that he made a obviously modern movie, and it would have been way more fun if it was using everything from the 30s and 40s. You know, it would have. So maybe it was also a little disappointed as things were progressing, and I'm looking at this like basically cartoon. That I had no investment in at all.
Yeah. Well, what I liked also about the first 10 minutes that I thought was cool was that the dialogue is very cryptic. Everything about it is just the kind of and it's not like a His Girl Friday rat-a-tat style dialogue, but it's just kind of, it's bits and pieces of stuff to help kind of form this mystery of you're like, oh, this is interesting, what's going on? And then like you said, right after that, everybody is just Basil exposition, and it's like everybody just prattles off their backgrounds and their stories and what they're doing and where they've been and who they are.
Yeah. And in that way, it's a lot like a serial. Because that's all they did in serials.
Yeah, but I mean, and
that's
then
not an excuse.
Not an excuse. What?
That's not an excuse for poor writing, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of poor writing and a lot of just like, oh shit, they're trapped. We gotta how are we gonna get them out of here? And then like, oh, this is convenient, and this person happens to show up here, and boy, I hope that, you know, and there's a lot of like danger that never felt like danger. You know, I also couldn't get past the plane slamming into the water and becoming submarines.
Right.
Like, I was like, they'd be so dead inside. Yeah. They'd just be goo inside. Like they weren't designed. They had no cushions in there. Like the force, I don't know. I couldn't get past all that. But I did like the robot designs. I loved all that stuff. I loved like that kind of stuff. That was cool.
Yeah, I thought all the raw elements are there. It just they just do nothing with it. It just turns into kind of very kind of plain, you know. And like I said, all the dialogue scenes that suddenly take place, it's just medium shot, over shoulder, close up, and like at one point they were used close ups so often that by the end, there's some scene near the end where like the close ups are like this. And it's like, Jesus, just pull back, pal. It's okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of weird cuts in the movie, too, where things sort of jumped from, like, an action, somebody's flying, and then all of a sudden they were like I remember he got blasted on that walkway near the rocket, and he kind of flew over the railing, and then it cut to, like, kind of below the railing, and he, like, dropped there. It just felt like a weird... Right. There was a bunch of stuff like that, where, I mean, that wasn't the only time, but there was a lot of cuts where I was like, I feel like something was cut out of the movie weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just some of that comes with the filmmaking, and you've got a guy who can probably animate, and in his mind he can see exactly how something is supposed to go. But when you start putting live people in that and you miss a shot, you can't go back and fix it. You can't, like, even at this point in time, digital character. Well, now because we still have Jar Jar Binks by this point in time and stuff like that. So I mean, but how much more money is that going to cost to create a digital person? Because we had the Spider-Man movies were out by that point in time as well.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, you know, so you had these digital characters, but, you know, who knows how much more money that would have cost to fix anything. And that was, yeah, it really felt like it's really jagged and roughly cut and poorly put together in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you compare it to, like, 300 when you were saying, and I think a lot of the action in Sky Captain sort of relied more on the effects. Or in 300, it used the effects, but the people were right there in the action, whether it was in the slow motion or them.
I give it that, yeah.
And that felt more... that's just more impressive. Like, you see it. You're right, kind of like there. It's like the difference between seeing like a fight between like Jason Bourne, like in a close up, and it's blurry, and then the Transformers fighing and it's blurry, and it's like you know, there's something kind of fake. There's something clearly fake about it, even though you know it's fake.
Right.
But you know, there's something. If you're up there with the people, it feels a little bit more real.
Yeah, yeah. I think with real people, there's always that element of certain danger. Like with Mad Max last week, when that guy on the motorcycle gets his head
Yeah,
back of
yeah.
his head knocked, there's always that potential that you're going to get that one shot of somebody really catching a fist or something like that, and they'll include it in the film. And there's that sense of contact that comes with it. In this, like when the robots attack at the beginning, and Paulie, is that her name?
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it is Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Is
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it Paulie? Okay,
Polly
Paulie Perkins is running through the streets, and the robot legs are coming down around her. But there's
Yeah.
never there's never that shot of her hitting the ground and then a foot just coming in front of her and missing her. Everything's always in the background. Everything is going on around somebody versus right in front of them, or they're stuck in the middle of something.
Yeah.
T, I'm curious, what you liked this film the first time you saw it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I really wasn't. I wasn't bored by it. I was kind of into it. The Angelina Jolie character may have had something to do with it. I really dug her character. Awful accent and everything. And I'm kind of like I kind of dig the '30s aesthetic too, the serials, and I've always wanted to see kind of an update, a modern update of that. But this was pretty rote. There was nothing new. There was no fresh take on it. It was just a kind of a cornucopia of all this stuff he used to watch, and it just regurgitated it rather than put any twist on it. And at the time, I just enjoyed it. I just kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna watch this. Didn't have the same kind of negative reaction. Seeing it again, I do see the flaws, and there are many, and the weaknesses are very obvious. So we've already touched upon the lack of chemistry of the characters, the poor script. There's some story elements that don't make any sense. And I think I was able, when I first saw it, I was able to kind of look beyond that and just see how he put this digital world together. And I think I was more interested in that. And doing so, I just kind of enjoyed it on that level. And I don't think you can deny that there is a lot of skill and there's a lot of imagination going on in what he did.
Sure.
He just lacked the elementals of filmmaking, and just good story, good script, and directing the actors to react.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised he has not become a production designer since then. Because I could see him becoming and I don't know what he's doing now. I haven't looked at his IMDb. All I looked at his directing credits and saw that he'd basically done nothing. But
he's done a lot of shorts. He's done some commercial work, and then
really, yes, it's like I think him as a digital production designer of some sort, or some kind of world. I don't know what the world creator type of designers for these types of things would be. But I think he had and who knows, maybe he's very limited to this era. But he would. I think that's really where he would excel. Just not as a director, not as or. He was not, I don't expect a first-time filmmaker to come out of the gate, fully formed, but I saw nothing in this as a filmmaker that showed any type of formation whatsoever or any kind of vision other than that which he, is drawn onto the screen.
From what I read, he wasn't really interested in adaptations, which is probably why
what do you mean he wasn't interested in adaptations?
He doesn't want to adapt of pre-existing work. He's interested in his doing new things, creating new things. Kind of like in the mold of Guillermo del Toro, who likes to do his own stuff.
Right.
That kind of has mixed results. But he's in an era of big movie making where everything is based on something, and original stuff is kind of just doesn't get developed, or it doesn't have that fast track to production as pre-existing franchises or pre-existing books or comics or whatever.
Right.
And he may have been an early victim of that trend. So who knows? Who knows what we could have done?
Yeah, he was somewhat, in a weird way, he was kind of ahead of the curve, yet at the same time didn't have what it would take. I mean, I'm curious if other filmmakers watched this and said, "Oh shit, okay, this is what we can't do. This is, we need to remember this. We need to remember that." I'm curious if what lessons were taken away from the. I don't want to call it a failure because it's not a 100% failure. It's definitely it definitely lacks heavily.
But you know what? It's a good first film for what he was trying to do. Maybe he could have grown. Maybe he could have.
Yeah.
Went back to film school.
He could have used some help on the script and on the filmmaking part of it. I mean, like if anything, like a production designer or something like that. I just I mean, it's an expensive, fancy student film in some ways, but he has no storytelling, really skills. I mean, it was just kind of he could have used a screenwriting class or something.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You know, sorry, going back to the Mad Max dub comment about it being a good student film first thing. This is actually, I think, Sky Captain World Tomorrow that's the student film. That's where you really see, you know, the student film kind of concept going on there. Let me read really quick. So this was Dub's comment when he realized he couldn't make it tonight. Fuck, all in capitals. I sat through that Sky Captain garbage for nothing, all capitals, exclamation point. So that's what he has to say about it. I'm sure he could go deeper into that, but that's
I guess
kind of sums up the things. Yeah, really. Yeah, he's not he's holding back there, I feel. So let's see. So here's what Shu had to say. There's a chance I'll miss tomorrow. Blah, blah, blah. My fear is the entire argument in its defense will be based on the premise, well, that's exactly how they talked in the serials. That defense only gets you so far. It doesn't excuse that Law and Paltrow have zero chemistry, and her casting is really off-kilter. It's tough for the modern-day starlet to play femme fatale, and Paltrow can't pull it off. Further, in the early stages of a change in technology, it was also tough to act in front of a green screen because Paltrow isn't very good at that either. I think it looks pretty good. The neo-alternative WW2 post-steampunk thing is pretty consistently cool, but after a while, the whole oh pretty thing runs its course. And then you need to rely on people on the screen to get you through. I noticed it got a rating of 2.5 stars out of 5 on Netflix, and I'd say that's about right. So that possibly the most concise thing that she was going to be able to.
Although I disagree about the Gwyneth Paltrow. Again, I'm never going to defend her, but I don't think I just think the part was bad. I don't think anybody could have really played it.
Well, I mean, when her last 45 minutes is worried about having only 2 shots left.
Yeah, exactly. It was
the
part she was given, and it was a pretty crappy part.
Yeah, and it's also, and it's like, all of that you're dealing with 30 minutes, 45 minutes of setup for the punchline, which is the last line of the movie. Yeah. And it does not pay off at all. Yeah. Though Tremendo looks, oh, come on, Tremendo, you were tickled by that. Look at you laughing. Look at you giggling like a schoolboy.
I think I remember Shu being furious at that last line.
Yeah.
I think he was like, that's how you end the movie? That's how you end it? I distinctly remember him reacting that way. I might be wrong.
But I think, the dialogue was only really like that 30s, 40s dialogue. And again, in the first 10 minutes, that's the only time it felt that. After that, it was all
very modern
day, poor attempt at trying to do it. Because I loved the first 10 minutes, and I wish that the rest of that movie had followed that style. But
no, I'm right there with you. I thought after that first few minutes, I was like, oh God, are we rediscovering something here that people have stopped paying attention to because it's bad rap, and then all of a sudden it settled in.
Oh yeah, this is why we.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah. Also, the other thing that made me laugh hysterically was the Giovanni Ribisi character Dax, something like that. He's the inventor, so he's created his fun little ray gun, but then he's kidnapped and. An entire movie takes place without him on screen. So he shows up, he flies in on his little floaty truck with.
Because they just happen to escape. You never see it. You never.
Nothing.
Oh, hey, we're good. And I brought these scientists too. It's all good. We're fine.
Exactly.
Some died.
Weird. 40 billion robots chasing us, but we're gonna get out of here anyway.
Don't worry about that story. We escaped. Some died. Some lived. Don't worry about it.
And that's exactly what it is. It's like a 30-second exposition of. This happened and that happened, and then we escaped, but most of the scientists died, but these 2 guys survived, and that's what happened. Like, oh, I bet that sounded like a fun movie. I would have liked to have seen that one.
I was like, are you kidding me? You showed them kind of walking through the snow for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But you didn't show this? Come on.
Yeah, you've got wacky hirsute guys laying naked in bed with Jude Law, and you've got all this like boring shit, and then all of a sudden it's like Giovanni Ribisi is having the most awesome adventure somewhere else, and that's the movie.
Flying El Camino.
Yeah, I'll tell you what would have been cool if this movie had actually been successful, and if somehow the Sky Captain story had been fun, it would have been great to have a sequel that was just from the Giovanni Ribisi character's point of view, so you could see that side of the story. That would have been a neat kind of double feature movie.
Like an Ender's Game sequel.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
whole story
I mean-
just told from his point of view.
Yeah, I mean the whole movie. I mean, yeah, and just when he had his gum and his paper, like I hated like when you can like see like the wheels turning. Like everything in that
There-
movie was based on finding something just randomly somewhere. Like that's
And
what it
it's-
was.
yeah.
Hey, look, and that was everything. It was oh man.
Yeah,
Were
it's
you guys,
angry.
did you guys feel a little uncomfortable when the Laurence Olivier character was found to be dead for 20 years, and Olivier was dead in real life? So it was a dead man playing a dead man.
That
Kind of thing
that-
felt a
I didn't
little
think about
weird
it.
to me. Kind of, cannibalistic,
it was too soon.
morbid.
There's so many weird things, and it was just throw it on the pile, I guess.
Well, and I remembered as soon as I remembered that Olivier was in it, I was like, oh right, because and I was awkwardly excited when I first saw the film because this will be interesting to see how they use old I thought they were going to use old performance stuff of his and alter it so it looked like an actual performance, but all it is just digital giant weird head that you very rarely see his mouth talking. So they've got somebody doing his voice. And it's whenever his mouth in the first couple wide shots, whenever his mouth or something isn't going to sync, it's got a little kind of digital glitch in it, so it tries to cover it up. It's horrible. It's a really bad bit, and although it did remind me of when they were showing old stills of Olivier, that guy was fucking good looking. That was good looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I mean, there was no reason for it. There was no reason for it whatsoever. Though I hope his grandkids or whoever runs his estate made a couple bucks off of the deal because I doubt he would have approved of what they did with him.
No, he never would have approved of that movie.
No, and was this? I can't remember. This was after the Fred Astaire dancing with a vacuum and shit, right? I can't. That's.
Was it?
It's about that era. Yeah.
It's around that same time. I'm not sure what the actual legit time frame is on that, but that was the first one I remember seeing was Fred Astaire dancing with a vacuum and going, "Motherfucker, really?" This is
Yeah.
Thank God, there's one estate that I'm sure they're happy that they're just digging up Grandpa's bones and making $5 off of the deal. Get a job, you lazy bums. Yeah.
Going back to the all the references that are in the film, and all that stuff. I wonder how kids would react to seeing this movie, like today's kids.
In that same, and that's one of the things I was thinking of, in that first 10 minutes was, I wonder if there's going to be these group of children that grew up on it the same way that I know a bunch of 20-somethings who grew up on The Rocketeer, and they might have some odd affection for Sky Captain in the next 10 years coming up or whatever. We're going to run
I'm
into.
not in my 20s, John.
Right. Sorry, my bad. But I wondered if there would be that kind of those kids that grew up because their parents were like, throw on Sky Captain, it's clean and safe. And it's very safe. Like if you got a 5-year-old or whatever, they may get really fucking bored with it. But it's incredibly safe to show to younger kids. So I thought maybe, but I don't think anybody bought the film on DVD. I don't think anybody really. Harry Knowles is the only person I know who's probably got, actually, him and Tremendo were the only two that don't.
Tremendo bought Harry Knowles' used copy. He bought Harry Knowles, traded it in, and Tremendo bought it.
Yeah.
Full of red hair and crustiness.
Yeah, I thought, and I know Anna Cool, and again, everybody, the sites during that time, the Film Geek sites at the time, really were playing him up, and it may be also one of those very early, it'll definitely be one of those earlier examples of geekdom touting something that's going to be a blast and made for us and blah 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 blah, and it never really catches on or hits the mark the way it's supposed to.
But I also think a lot of film purists, people who saw digital filmmaking as a threat to the purity of celluloid, saw it as a threat or just immediately going to shit on it.
Right.
Based on the fact that it was a digital film.
Yeah. No, I would
add that counter geek.
Right. And was it shot? Sure. Was it shot on video as well? I'm kind of curious if it was shot on one
I want to say
camera or something like that. Yeah.
They shot it in 29 days.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
That shows.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, that fits it. Yeah, and it's funny because it's Rodriguez does more in say a Spy Kids movie or something one of those where he it varies. I actually ended up watching 7 minutes of Sin City 2 the other day when I was at the movies. I walked in to kind of check out 5 minutes of that, 10 minutes of that, and I was bored off my skull. But yeah, it's not good. At the end of the day, it's just not good filmmaking. If it had a script, I probably would have been able to forgive its so-so filmmaking. You know, it's like here you have a guy who he's not a strong writer, he's not a strong director, and that's what we end up giving us. And it was a movie made simply off the fact that everybody was wowed by the technology, and this is the movie this is how that movie got through. Like, what was the Clive Owen Shoot 'em Up? Was that the Clive Owen movie?
Yeah, Shoot 'em Up.
Where the guy made just the animatics for it, and that's what got the movie greenlit. When they're like, oh, okay, as soon as you could say this is what it's going to look like, this is how it's going to feel, people are like, okay, great, because that way they don't have to imagine if something's going to work or not. They actually have a sense of what something's going to be.
Sure.
It just didn't. It's just as soon as he put two actors on screen and they had to talk back and forth without delivering some very long monologue of exposition about how some bad guy was made and everything else like that. I don't even remember what was Olivier's character's name. It started with a T. Like
Tutankhamun or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. Tuttenkopf. Something like that.
But see, it was way more interesting. Like all that was set up way more interesting in the first 10 minutes. Like I was like I still like the way they talked about it when she met with the scientists and. Like, again, that's maybe my biggest disappointment because it started off really strong.
And I'm wondering if the Sky Captain character was more conceived as like a Superman, like a superhero movie. And at the time, they kind of poo-pooed on it and said, no one's going to watch superhero movies. And because he sounds like a Superman. Sky Captain sounds like a Superman type character.
Yeah, well, and they also talk about like he's got his band of mercenaries on his island, and there's nobody. I mean, it's just like dudes walking around who get the shit blown out of them in 15 minutes, and there's nobody. Yeah. He's got no fun team. He doesn't even have like a Doc Savage kind of team of scientists, or he needs like that Buckaroo Banzai team.
Exactly. That if he had like a Buckaroo Banzai team of just. Like, you didn't even know what half those guys did on Buckaroo Banzai. Like, they were in the band. Like, one guy was like the guitar player, but the other was a scientist.
Yeah,
you weren't even sure what they were doing. It was, he had nothing. He had Dex, and then Dex disappears for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and then, what's Captain America's team during World War II? The Marauders?
Howling Commandos.
Howling Commandos.
Yeah, exactly. Had he had his group of Howling Commandos, something that would have given, just build it out so you're not looking at. I mean, God, now that I think about it, I don't know how much screen time do Paltrow and Law have during that movie. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of time once they both get together. It's almost like all of them. They'll add another. Yeah, in a plane, and then it's like they'll add a third character to kind of break it up a little bit. But it's like first they've got the hairy guy in Tibet.
Yeah, and they got rid of him. He was like my favorite character for a while.
yeah, and then it's like they bring in Angelina Jolie with her eye patch, and she's got her fun kind of flying fortresses and stuff like that. But they don't, and they're always calling out she's always calling out these weird teams. It's like call out the submarine commando, aquatic commandos, call out the this, call out the that, and that's all she really does. And I don't even remember if we see. I mean, I guess we see her again at. One moment after she blows up the little underwater mech, I think she gets one more little bit.
She flies away.
Yeah, she flies away on her jetpack, which was kind of a fun little bit. Yeah. I will give Paltrow this. So we discover. Oh, and here's the weird. So there's an odd sexist thing going on here that really kind of bugs me, which is you've got supposedly. Two very strong females because one is an intrepid reporter, and the other is the commander or the leader of this giant squad of flying fortresses. But it seems like they would trade it all in if Sky Captain would just marry them. And it's so bizarre because it's like there's the scene where it's like. Where was it when we fought in Nanking or wherever it was? It was and then Paulie gets a little jealous. The one scene that I liked was Paulie sitting in the back of the plane, and she's kind of a little miffed that Joe has had but men call him Joe has had this has had what possibly was some kind of affair with Frankie in the past. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I mean, and I don't think any of those people, like I said earlier, I think nobody knew how to act across a tennis ball at that time. Nobody, it's like not knowing what something is supposed to look like or what it is you're reacting to, does not help an actor at all. And so whether they're good or not, half of if you like Jude Law, don't like Jude Law, like Gwyneth Paltrow, don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, they aren't helped at all. They aren't allowed. They can't use any of their skills. They can't rely on any of their imagination or anything if somebody's not explaining to them or showing them clearly what it is that's taking place in front of them at this moment. And then you just get kind of blank stares and faces looking off at something, going, "Oh, that's incredible," and they have and like their eyes are like, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here."
And it doesn't help that all their character traits come from backstories that they tell each other. You know, it's like nothing that you see. It's all stuff. Hey, remember that time in Shanghai? You cheated on me. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. And it's like, it's like, well, none of that. And then something that bothered me the most, I just thought of that when half the movie I almost like yelled at my screen. It was. When they said this is the island, this is where it is on the map, and this is where we're gonna run out of fuel. And all I could think was, it's a fucking submarine. Who cares if you run out of fuel? You're not gonna die.
Yeah.
You're still out there. I was like, oh my god. It's like you set it up to be this cool thing, but then you try to make this danger, but you've already created this safety net for it that you can't. I don't know. One of the many things that was.
Yeah, tension was nowhere in this film's repertoire. There was their attention. So, all right. So I guess T. What would you? Okay, when you first saw it, give me a rating, and then how you feel about now after revisiting it.
I think when I saw it, it was like a 3.5.
This is out of 5.
Out of 5, yeah.
Okay.
And now, a 3. I still enjoyed it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I came in kind of resenting the fact that, as a movie geek, I was offended that they're playing up this guy to be the next Spielberg, and there was, I think I was more upset at the hype of the film than the actual film itself.
Right.
So actually watching it kind of alleviated some of that, irritation. It's definitely got weaknesses, but you know what? Seeing it again, I still enjoyed it. So, the hell?
That was my phone.
Oh.
Despite it,
Sky Captain.
Sky Captain, I gotta go.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. It's got major problems, but I think I wish it could have served as just a stepping stone for this guy to do other things.
Right.
I think I would have been more interested to see.
Yeah, I would have been curious to see what he did next. I would definitely have checked it out. I mean, just to see if there would be any evolution in his filmmaking process. Maybe we'll have to track down his shorts at some point in time and see how they are.
He's not an old guy. I mean, he has time. Maybe something will happen.
Maybe. So. Warren, let's see. I mean, you saw it way back when. You saw it now. I don't know if you can even.
I don't remember. I don't remember my reaction to it way back then. It never stayed on my mental radar. Like I never thought about it. So I obviously didn't care much for it. Like I was almost a little bit excited watching it. I was like, I totally forgot about that movie. And then watching the first 10 minutes, I was like you said, maybe I'm rediscovering something. Maybe I was drunk or something and I didn't remember it or. And then I was like, oh no, this is a piece of crap. What are we rating it out of 5?
Out of 5 is the rating this week. Is the style this week? Yeah.
I might say like 1.5, maybe 2, based on the first 10 minutes. Like if you watch for the first 10 minutes and then turn it off, I think you'll be okay. But I didn't enjoy it.
We should just do that. Just rate movies based on the first 10 minutes.
On the first 10 minutes, the setup. We'll base things on the setup, and
after that, we call it 10-minute reviews, but the reviews are an hour. But we only talk about the first 10 minutes of the movie.
we got an angle.
Wait, that review is way too long. It's not 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's haha.
We have to do it in under a minute.
Oh wow.
And so it's just nothing but 59 minutes of blank air of us just staring.
Like staring at the camera. I think my computer's frozen.
Yeah, really. I probably would have given it 2 stars then. I'd give it 2 stars now, though. It has. I don't recommend it, but I would say it has an interesting place in movie history because I really feel like, in a weird way, over the past, since starting in 1998, and actually really. I mean, we could say the prehistoric era of CGI was literally with a Jurassic Park, I guess, where we really started kind of seeing this stuff take off. But the real kind of birth of digital filmmaking took place, around 1999 with beginning of The Matrix and Phantom Menace. That's really when this stuff started kicking in, and we started actually using digital cameras as well. So it is an interesting artifact in the history of digital filmmaking. But I think as a movie itself, it's really kind of not worth it. If you kind of want to see some interesting production design and kind of look at some pretty images in the first 10 minutes, especially, you're good to go. And then I don't know what Bai Ling was doing in there either. That was really weird and creepy because even when they found out she's a robot, even that looked funky fake.
That was a real Bai Ling. That was the only.
She is actually a robot. Yeah. I was gonna.
Real life, she's a robot.
Yeah, I was going to dig up my Bai Ling photo, but I won't be able to find that one. Anyways, yeah. So watch it at your own risk. Like I said, if you're into film history, I think it's an interesting artifact in modern film history. But as a film itself, it's an old monogram movie basically. At the end of the day. So next week, and we'll have to figure out. I guess maybe we'll just do. We'll see if we'll do 2 shows a week, or we'll kind of find a way to compose both of these into a single show. Since I'm going to be back starting next Tuesday, the only reason I wanted to start doing these was because I felt bad because I wanted to do something. But Warren is choosing our film for next week, so Warren, I'm very curious to hear what have you got for us.
I've been looking ever since we talked about picking movies. I've been looking on Netflix. I was like, what kind of movie do I want to see? And it's like, I wanted it to be a movie that I saw. I wanted it to be a movie that I didn't quite remember how I felt about it. Like I wanted to know that I saw it. This was a movie that I liked when it came out. It's from the '80s, the mid to late '80s. It's a kind of a B movie, a horror kind of movie called Night of the Creeps.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I remember enjoying that movie. So I think I want to see how it holds up because I haven't seen it probably since '87,
right?
'88, probably when it was on video. So I like to see how that one would be because I think Dub and I used to talk about it. I think we both enjoyed it when we were kids. So I wanted to see if I still enjoy it.
Excellent. That's cool. What a great choice. I feel like T. Did we watch that when we were roommates? I feel like that was one of the ones we saw.
It's funny because I'd never seen it. I didn't see it in the '80s. We had the Stars tier, and it was always on one of those Stars channels.
Right.
Yeah, it was always on one of those cable
channels. Encore, and whenever it was on, I go, "Oh my God, this piece of shit again!" And I think one night we just saw it from beginning to end, and then well, we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So
I barely remember because I know at the time we were watching like a lot of oh God, what was the video? Not video, Terror Vision. We ended up seeing like a bunch of Neon Nightmare or something like that.
Neon Maniacs.
Neon Maniacs, yes, yeah. So we ended up seeing
the poster.
I remember we had a bunch of those. Of course you do. We had a bunch of those. You don't have the Street Trash poster, do you?
I don't, but that's a good one.
It's a good poster. It's a good poster, and that's actually a movie I'd like
hard to get. Again.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm not. That doesn't surprise me at all. It's a good-looking poster. So cool. So next week, Night of the Creeps, starring the guy with the mustache that was in Lethal Weapon that takes the bullet through the milk carton, whose name I can't think of. Who was in Halloween 3? What's you remember the main guy's name in Halloween 3?
Oh, damn it.
I think it's Tom Atkins.
Tom Atkins. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Nice. So next week we'll be looking at Night of the Creeps. Very excited about that. That's actually really cool. I'm looking forward to revisiting that and checking that one out. At which point Shu will give us what movie we'll be watching.
I guess we got to let those guys know, huh?
Yeah. I guess we'll have to email them since they don't watch the show.
They won't be watching.
Yeah. So right now I would say Shu, take us out. Shu, Shu, take us out. So we just say, T, where can people find you?
I'm at El Tremendo on Twitter and eltremendo3000.com.
And Warren?
At Warren Graff.
All right, and you can find me at John Santo, where we tweet and do other things. So until next week, if you want to join us, watch Night of the Creeps for the nobodies who watch us. And then we'll see you next week. All right, folks, take care. Adios.